Come to Providence Place, owned by the Sisters of Providence for retirees looking for an ideal rental setting to continue their active, independent lifestyles. We offer bright 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, a magnificent chapel with daily mass, restaurant-style dining, wellness and entertainment programs, all with a friendly community spirit on beautiful grounds. Call for a tour, 413-534-9700.
Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel, the College of Our Lady of the Elms dedicates a new chapel and welcomes a new president. Part 3 of our Catholic Communications pilgrimage continues with a visit to the magnificent Cathedral of St. James in Santiago de Compostela, Spain. And Dan Dumas has the latest from the Diocese of Springfield. These stories and more are just ahead on this edition of Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome to Reel from the newly built and dedicated St. Joseph Chapel on the campus of Our Lady of the Elms College in Chicopee. This new sacred space, completed and blessed just a few weeks ago, is centrally located on the 3rd floor of the college's flagship building, Berkman's Hall. In recent college history, the space has been used as a communal reading room and conference space, but for so much of the college's history, it served as a library and now a new spiritual space. On Friday, October 6th, Springfield Bishop Mitchell Rosansky formally blessed the new St. Joseph Chapel following the inauguration of the college's new president, Harry Dumais. The chapel is the 3rd official chapel in the college's history.
Our chapel had to come down about 2 years ago. We were looking for a space either on campus or looking at the possibility of building a new chapel. And we discovered this space had been used for a study. So we looked at it and thought with the stained glass windows already here that we could be able to use this space if we could raise the funds.
Much of the existing architecture was saved and restored, including the windows depicting major philosophers in the Catholic Church that are original to Berkman's Hall, built in 1928. Other stained glass windows were used from the former chapel, and some were gifted by the Sisters of St. Joseph from their original mother house in Springfield. The Stations of the Cross are also original to the old chapel, and a beautiful processional cross was also restored.
That's original to the college, so that's like 89 years old. It's sterling silver and brass. We just had it refurbished, and they told us this was like a classic, and so to hold on to it, and it was really a beautiful piece. We discovered many beautiful pieces after we took the chapel down. We had to take everything out, so it's been like sort of been a fun adventure.
The new chapel has seating for at least 80 and also includes a smaller side prayer room with a monstrance for Eucharistic adoration. Its central location is perfect for students and faculty, says Father Mark Stelzer, college chaplain.
So this is right literally in the center of the main building of the college, and it reflects the centrality of the Eucharist in the life of the church and the life of the college, that what we do here in the center of the campus informs the life and mission of our College of Our Lady of the Elms.
And the mission of Elms College continues to be rooted in the core values that embody community, justice, excellence, and most importantly, faith, says Father Stelzer.
We are hoping many of our students and faculty will take advantage of as they pass by in between classes or to offices, which they might not have been so likely to do in a freestanding chapel where you physically had to leave the building to go to a prayer space.
Daily Mass is held in the chapel Monday through Thursday at 12:15 p.m., with weekend Mass celebrated on Saturday at 6 p.m. The college's previous chapel was closed in the spring of 2016 because of structural issues that made it unsafe and were too expensive to make renovations an option. Well, 500 years after Martin Luther defiantly nailed a copy of his 95 Theses to the door of Wittenberg Castle Church, setting in motion the Reformation, Local Catholics and Lutherans, joined by members of the extended interfaith community, will gather together to mark this pivotal moment in history. Joining me now is Martin Peon, Professor of Religious Studies here at Elms College and President of the Interfaith Council of Western Massachusetts, to tell us more about this upcoming event. Thanks for being with us today, Marty.
Glad to be here, Sharon.
So we are marking this anniversary, but it's not a celebration, is it? What's the purpose of this event?
The purpose of this event is to recognize where we are today as opposed to where we were 500 years ago. So much has happened, and the relationship between the Lutheran community and worldwide and the Catholic community has significantly grown and developed into something positive and collaborative. So we are remembering the events that triggered a whole series of historical conflicts, but also recognizing that many good things have come as a result of the work that we've done together over the years.
Can you tell us the particulars, like who will be attending and when, where is it? Is the public invited?
Everybody is welcome to participate. The service will have an ecumenical and an interfaith perspective. We want to include everybody in this prayer service, and then also to invite the entire community to participate in preparing meals for people who are dealing with lack of food. So after the prayer service in St. Michael's Cathedral, we will move to the Marshall Center, where we will have staging set up so that people can assist with the preparation of meals, and these meals will be distributed to the local community. The Western Mass Food Bank will be receiving some of the meals, and also the people affected by the hurricanes.
All right, Marty Peon, thanks so much for your insight today.
Again, great to be with you.
And again, if you would like to attend the interfaith service, we have all the information on our website at iobserve.org. And still to come on Reel to Reel,
I'm Dan Dumas.
Dan Dumas takes a look at the latest news from the Diocese of Springfield. And Walking the El Camino, Part 3 in a series of reports on our Catholic Communications July pilgrimage. These stories and more are still to come on Reel to Reel from Elms College in Chicopee.
The Chalice of Salvation, your weekly spiritual connection. I'm Passionist Brother Terrence Scanlon, your Chalice host, inviting you to take time out of your busy days and join us Sunday morning at 10. We welcome Father Donald Lapointe, Director of the Society for the Propagation of the Faith, as our Mass presider. The Chalice of Salvation, your spiritual connection, Sunday morning at 10, right here on WWLP 22 News.
Come to Providence Place, owned by the Sisters of Providence, for retirees looking for an ideal rental setting to continue their active, independent lifestyles. We offer bright 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, a magnificent chapel with daily mass, restaurant-style dining, wellness and entertainment programs, all with a friendly community spirit on beautiful grounds. Call for a tour, 413-534-9700.
I'm Dan Dumas with your reel-to-reel news briefs. Police and public safety officials came to St. Michael's Cathedral last Saturday for the annual Blue Mass. Carolee McGrath reports.
Members of law enforcement, firefighters, and all first responders processed into St. Michael's Cathedral for the annual Blue Mass, which honors those who put their lives in harm's way to protect the public. Springfield Bishop Mitchell Rosansky was the principal celebrant of the Mass, which was broadcast on Chalice of Salvation Sunday, October 15th. Father Gary Daly, the director of the Newman Catholic Center at UMass and chaplain of the Springfield Fire Department, was the concelebrant.
We come together to ask the mighty protection of St. Michael the Archangel, patron of our diocese and indeed patron of all who serve as you do.
Many families attended the Mass as well, along with retired members of law enforcement. Springfield Police Commissioner John Barbieri, Springfield Fire Commissioner Joseph Conant, and Springfield Mayor Dominic Sarno were also in attendance.
A reading of the Gospel according to Matthew.
Deacon Angel Perez, a Springfield police detective, read the Gospel. His son is also a Massachusetts state trooper.
This Blue Mass asks God's blessing upon all those who serve as police officers, state troopers, firefighters, correctional officers, court officers, and their families. Each one of you render exceptional service to our community. And sadly, much too often, we take your service for granted. May we, as God's people, never fail to be thankful for you and for your sacrifices so ably made for our safety and our well-being.
South Hadley Police Sergeant Barry O'Connor, a fourth-generation police officer, attended the Mass with his 3-year-old son, Brady.
Important to him to come to church with me and also just to see that police officers, firefighters are appreciated by both the church and by the community as well.
According to the National Law Enforcement Memorial Fund, 135 officers were killed on the job in 2016. 64 of them were shot. The National Fire Protection Association reports 69 on-duty deaths of fire personnel in 2016.
Do you pray before you go out on certain calls?
I have a St. Michael medal that I wear every single shift that I go on, and it's always with me when I'm on duty. So, and unfortunately, in this job, you pray that you always go home safe to your family every single shift.
The first Blue Mass was held in Washington, D.C. in 1934 and has since then become a tradition nationwide. Reporting for Reel to Reel, I'm Carolee McGrath.
In other news, the College of Our Lady of the Elms in Chicopee doesn't just have a new chapel, but recently inaugurated its new president. Sharon Rulier was in attendance for the October 6th festivities.
Harry Dumais officially became the 11th president of the College of Our Lady of the Elms in a formal inauguration ceremony. During his inaugural address, the new president made a promise to Elms students to provide a strong and active Catholic higher education. Among the attendees were delegates from 45 sister colleges and associations across New England and around the country, and honored guests who traveled from multiple countries, including the president of the Haitian Senate, the Honorable Yuri Latortu. Many representatives of the Sisters of St. Joseph, the college's founding congregation, also attended the inauguration.
I have no doubt the mission will continue here, as it has been for almost 90 years. It's going to continue, particularly with Dr. Dumais' leadership. I know how strongly he feels about opening the campus of opportunity for everybody, and truly having people who maybe would not have an education, a Catholic education otherwise, be able to step foot on this campus and really make a difference in not only their own life, but in the life of everybody that they meet.
Dumais, a native of Haiti, was chosen to lead Elms College following a nationwide search and took the helm in July.
And we wish Dr. Dumais great success. In other news, an annual August rally at a Feeding Hills parish inspired hundreds with music, prayer, and reconciliation. With their hands raised, people sang joyfully to the Lord at the 5th annual Faith on Fire rally, held at the end of August at Sacred Heart Parish in Feeding Hills. The rain forced the second night of the event inside the parish, and yet it didn't dampen the spirits of more than 400 people who gathered to grow closer to Jesus and praise him in all things.
It was the one word, if I was to pick one, I would say completely joyful. The whole night. I mean, it just never stopped, from the singing to the pray-overs, the confession line.
Deb Bryan Sesko, one of the pastoral ministers at Sacred Heart, and her husband Peter helped organize the event this year, along with the Hampton West Deanery and the Catholic Charismatic Renewal. They said nearly 600 people attended the first night of the rally, which was held outside on the church grounds Thursday, August 17th. The lineup included inspiring Catholic speakers, praise and worship music, Eucharistic adoration, the sacrament of reconciliation, and a healing service with the laying on of hands.
You know, there's nothing more enjoyable than see someone be touched by Christ, see the Holy Spirit come into their lives and open their heart and crack it open, where they never thought it would be able to be done to them. They never thought the Holy Spirit would get inside them and warm their heart and send them down a new road in their lives.
Thursday evening's presenters were Marian Father Thaddeus Langton from the National Shrine of the Divine Mercy in Stockbridge, and Marian Father Anthony Gramlich, the rector of the National Shrine of Divine Mercy in Stockbridge and director of the Catholic Charismatic Renewal. Valenda Liptak, a member of the St. Mary Parish in Westfield and a certified spiritual director, led off Friday evening. She spoke about the importance of the sacrament of reconciliation, telling the crowd confession is a celebration.
In the prodigal son, when the young son comes back home and the father embraces him, he starts to get excited and says, put a ring on his finger, put the robe on, put his sandals on his feet, get the fatted calf going, we are going to have a party. And it was a celebration of him repenting for what he had done. The father had compassion, recognized it, and ran to him.
Jesus is inviting us to be his disciples.
Father Bill Hamilton, who is also the chaplain of the Massachusetts State Police, the ATF, and several local police departments, kept the crowd laughing as he shared his own faith journey. Father Hamilton is also the chaplain for the Dominican Monastery of the Mother of God in West Springfield. He focused on discipleship, Mary, and the power of the Holy Spirit.
The Spirit of the Lord was upon her, and he said that she would be overpowered, overshadowed by the Spirit. So she received all the gifts of the Spirit. She received everything that she needed from God to do what God was going to ask her to do, and she trusted that she had it. And the idea is that God has bestowed his Spirit on us, and in doing so, he's given us everything we need to do what he wants us to do in this life.
Psalm 33 from Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament Parish in Westfield and Jack Yoris from Our Lady of the Lake Parish in Southwick led the praise and worship music.
You know, it's amazing. You don't really realize how many people are still so hungry for Christ. And these are the kind of events that bring them back. You know, we hear that over and over and over. You know, last year we had someone that confessed after being away 60 years. You know, that's amazing.
For full coverage of these events, log on to iobserve.org. There you can always stay informed on all the latest news in the Catholic Church locally and beyond. You can read articles written by our Catholic communications staff, as well as view archived episodes of Real to Real. That's iobserve.org. I'm Dan Dumas, and those were your Real to Real news briefs.
This past July, our Catholic Communications pilgrimage paid a visit to Spain, Portugal, and France. In part 3 of our special series on the pilgrimage this evening, Springfield Bishop Mitchell Rosansky, accompanied by Father Gary Daly, director of the Newman Catholic Center at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst, led pilgrims to the city of Santiago de Compostela in Spain. Each year, thousands of pilgrims walk the El Camino there, visiting the relics and the tomb of St. James the Apostle. Join us now as we bring you this next segment produced by Father Gary and Chief Videographer Bill Pacoscia on this once-in-a-lifetime experience.
We are on pilgrimage. Join us as we visit the sacred sites and the beautiful vistas and landscapes of Portugal, Spain, and France. Our journey will take us through Lisbon and up the Iberian Peninsula to Fatima, where we will join in the celebration of the 100th anniversary of the apparitions. Traveling north up the coast to Santiago de Compostela to experience the sights and the sounds surrounding the Feast of St. James. We make our way across the top of Spain to Burgos and Loyola as we make our final stop at Lourdes. Travel with Bishop Rosansky and participate in the many graceful events of this magnificent pilgrimage. We leave the beautiful town of Fatima with the memories of an abundance of spiritual blessings and experiences and make our way to Santiago de Compostela in Spain. We travel directly north, almost in a straight line up the west coast of Spain, hugging the coast of the Atlantic Ocean, enjoying the many vistas and sights along the way. We arrive in the beautiful and historical city of Santiago de Compostela, most famous for being the completion of the Camino, or St. James Way. This is a city filled with young people and a city energized with the true spirit of pilgrimage. The center of the city is without a doubt the Cathedral of St. James, built in the 11th century, and in the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries, many other additions and adornments became part of this magnificent structure. St. James brought the gospel message to the people of the Iberian Peninsula, and tradition tells us that St. James was the first apostle to be martyred. We had the opportunity of celebrating Mass twice in a beautiful side chapel where the relic of the true cross is displayed and venerated.
On this pilgrimage, we know that seed of faith planted in our hearts is nourished. It is the fertile ground as we have traveled through from Lisbon to Fatima, here to Compostela, and onward to Lourdes. It is that seed that is nourished by grace, growing in our hearts each day, helping us to realize the grace of God at work in our lives.
How significant it is that Bishop be here with us celebrating this Mass, who is the successor of the apostles. And we visited the grave of St. James the Greater, the apostle, buried here at this cathedral. One of the fascinating parts of the cathedral, and for which it is well known, is the botafumeiro, a huge solid silver incense burner weighing 116 pounds. 80 pounds of charcoal and incense are placed inside. It is hung by rope in a pulley system, and 8 men called tirabolieros are charged with pulling the ropes and swinging the censer from side to side, reaching heights of nearly 70 feet. The dramatic swinging of the censer produces large volumes of smoke which fills the cathedral with a sweet odor. We had the privilege of witnessing this magnificent sight and experiencing this ancient tradition because we were just 2 days away from the Feast of St. James celebrated on July 25th. We tour the beautiful basilica and climb the steps of the main altar to get a closer look at the bust of St. James. What's the feeling whenever you celebrate Mass when there's one of the apostles buried in the church?
Well, first of all, when we look at this magnificent structure here, the Cathedral of Santiago, it is a testimony to faith. And then when we think of the road, El Camino, leading to this cathedral, the 500 miles of pilgrimage, of walking that many, many pilgrims do, it certainly is an impressive piece of faith.
Tens of thousands walk or cycle the Camino each year, journeying 500 miles. To complete this great pilgrimage of El Camino, one must walk at least 65 miles, or cycle or travel by horseback at least 125 miles to obtain the certificate at the end of the journey. This spot right here is a spot of great relief. It's a spot of jubilation. This is the end of the Camino. People have walked, in some cases, 500 miles. Some have made a shorter journey. And in order to make the El Camino, they have a passport. And along the way, there are various spots in which the passport is stamped. They receive a shell, which has been the symbol of the Camino for centuries. And they come to this place and they receive a certificate that has claimed that they have ended their journey here to Compostela and have come into the Cathedral of St. James to embrace the bust of St. James in gratitude for a successful pilgrimage.
So we could see why pilgrims would walk so many miles to get here, because when they arrived here and look at this beautiful structure, it really is a physical testimony of what our faith is all about.
Right. And one of the pilgrims had asked while we were climbing the stairs to venerate the bust of St. James, said, why do people hug the statue? And I said, well, after you've walked 500 miles, I think you really want to hug the statue.
You need all the support you can get.
Absolutely. El Camino, or the Way, has led many to conversion to the faith, or conversion from sin, or simply a spiritual experience that has increased their faith. I know that at Santiago de Compostela, I think you did part of the Camino. Is that correct?
I did part of the Camino early in the morning with a group of people, and we prayed the rosary on the way, so it was like, here we are, walking in the same footsteps, and right around the feast day, which made the whole city very colorful, alive. People were coming in. It was just a beautiful, beautiful place to be, and one that would be worth going back to. And doing the walk, more of the walk.
More of the walk,
more of the
yeah.
walk.
It's divine providence that we should be in this city just days before the Feast of St. James. Our final evening in Santiago takes many of us to local shops and restaurants, milling around the streets with hundreds of other people enjoying a week-long celebration in honor of St. James. And nothing like a carnival with rides and food to celebrate this great saint. We're in our final night here in Santiago de Compostela. And they say timing is everything, but God's providence is even more astounding. That we're here 2 days before the Feast of St. James. It's always good to have a little fun while on pilgrimage, and it's good to be here, and it's good to celebrate in a very special way the Feast of the Apostle James. Join us next week as we journey across the north of Spain and stop in Burgos and Loyola on our way to the shrine of Our Lady of Lourdes.
What a beautiful cathedral. I'm sure the pilgrims received many blessings from their time there. And next week, the pilgrims continue by celebrating the Feast of St. James and the conversion of St. Ignatius of Loyola. And for this week, that's Reel to Reel. Thanks so much for joining us today from the St. Joseph's Chapel at Elms College. Just a reminder that Bishop Brzezinski extends an invitation to all to attend the interfaith service and community action marking the Reformation and the healing that has occurred. It's next Sunday, October 29th at 2 p.m. at St. Michael's Cathedral, and again, all are invited. And for updates anytime, you can find information and news on the Catholic Church, both here in the Diocese of Springfield and around the world on our news and information site, iobserve.org. And also be sure to friend us on Facebook, where you will be able to travel with our reporters as they work on stories for Reel to Reel and get the latest on the Catholic Church. Like us at Catholic Communications. I will be back at this same time next week for another edition of Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. See you then.
Reel to Reel is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.